Good morning. I'm sure people will continue to come in, but it's 10 o'clock and we believe in starting on time. Thank you all for being here. We've got a good crowd. That's wonderful. And welcome to our last Vaccra meeting of 2022. As you all know, I'm sure, that resident council unanimously passed our joint motion to ask Pinnacle Living to accept the resident on the board of directors. We are going forward with that process, and we will be keeping you informed. By the way, if we happen to have any non-Vaccra members here, we would be delighted for you to join us with this whole process of meetings and getting a great deal accomplished for our Cedarfield residents. And I do have applications with me this morning if anyone would like it. Any takers? See me afterwards. I'm sure you'll be interested. I want to let you know we are reviewing program possibilities for the coming months. So if you have anything in mind, please let us know. And our new Vaccra Winter 2022 newsletter is here and will be distributed to all the membership this weekend. If anyone would like to help stuff one in the in-house mailbox, let me know. We are so pleased to have as our speaker this morning Stephanie Burkham, Director of Human Resources at Cedarfield. And she's been here for 18 years, so she has a lot of information to give to us. And Michael Shaw, Vice President of CCRC Operations for Pinnacle Living, will be with us, and they both will be available to answer questions after the presentation. So have your questions ready, but don't start talking about your questions until we get to you with a microphone, please, because nobody will be able to hear you. Stephanie, Michael, Stephanie, come on over.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just wanted to kick off recruitment and retention, just to talk a little bit about some, we call them imperatives, when we're trying to recruit team members and retain team members. There's about 8 or 9 things that are top of mind for human resources and all the department directors. We call these imperatives. The first imperative is we want to make sure that the people that we're attracting to Cedarfield and that we're retaining at Cedarfield have 2 really important things in mind. One is that they're connected to our mission, which is enriching life's journey. And then the second thing is that they are connected to our 6 values. Cedarfield and Pinnacle Living, we have 6 values. They are culture, diversity, hospitality, quality, partnership, and good stewardship. And so on the recruitment side, we're asking behavioral-based questions that are linked to this mission and these values. And then on the team member side, once the team member is hired and they go through the annual performance reviews, we link up those values to their performance review. Another imperative is finding people that are trustworthy, that are committed to our cause, which is serving residents. We ask, it's not an imperative that the person that we're trying to attract actually has previous senior living experience, but we are looking for people that want to be in and around people 62 years of age and better. We hire people for the best fit for the role. So Stephanie's team is looking to screen folks and looking for those qualifications that are trying to attract that person for that specific role. We're looking for people who are well organized and have emotional intelligence so that we can separate out the emotion from the job and think logically about what to do. We're looking for people who are excellent communicators and are using their time wisely. And in the performance reviews annually, that's one of the highlights within the performance review. And we're looking for folks, not only when we're recruiting people, but the team members while they are here that truly listen, while they are active in their role within the shift. We're looking for the housekeeper, for example, not only to go into the resident apartment and do the cleaning, but we're looking for the housekeeper to actively listen to you while you're in there so that there's a connection and a relationship that is formed. Not just with the housekeeper, but really every department and every team member. And then we're actively looking for the professional side of the business. We're looking for folks that have their certification. So the CNAs, the LPNs, the nurses, the social workers, folks in the dining department have certain certifications. We look for people who are coming to join us that have that certification, and it's active certification, and that they continue those certifications while they work here. So those are some of the 8 or 9 imperatives that we're looking for, not only to recruit people, but to retain them. So Stephanie's going to get a little bit into the culture I think we're going to talk about next.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So the culture, we have a PEAK program, and this is how Cedarfield recognizes team members. Many of you probably already know this. Our mission award is nominated by the administration to include department directors, managers, and supervisors. Our value awards are nominated by residents, team members, and management. And then, of course, the vision award is submitted by the resident council once a year, and then team members are rewarded based on that. Team member meetings, we conduct those positive meetings it's a positive meeting that's conducted monthly to celebrate team members through birthdays, anniversaries, what events are happening in their life that they'd like to share, so those kind of fun things, just to pick up morale. So those are the things that we're doing there. Our Spirit Committee creates events throughout the year to increase the morale within the community. We might do little birthday bags each month, or we celebrate, the professional week each, whatever month it falls in for those team members. So maybe housekeeping week, we might do a little something for that. Usually once a quarter, we'll do team member events for team members. Michael, anything to add so far? No?
You got it.
Okay. Recruiting, so we're looking to attract great candidates through our applicant tracking software system and through social media. The software allows us to track the length of time it takes to hire an applicant, and that's called, help me, I forgot. Caldere. It's very useful. We've been using it for probably almost a year now, right? Yeah. Recruiting, I just talked about that. Social media, we're using a marketing company called 519 who assists the Innsbruck office with social media and networking. So they're actually handling all of that through the Innsbruck office, or the Pinnacle Living office. Recruiters, Cedarfield has hired a full-time recruiter who serves as an advocate to help new team members through the first 90 days. So this recruiter is now going to be, or has been, helping meet with new team members to retain them after 30 days, after 60 days, and after 90 days. Selecting applicants, interviewing, and making offers. Again, Caldera is our applicant tracking software to help with recruiting. They advertise through platforms such as Google, Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, Twitter, and many other, Facebook, many other sites that I haven't mentioned. Michael mentioned earlier that we use behavioral-based interview guides. That tool is used during the interview process to hire applicants based on previous behaviors that they explain to us that they've done in the past. The past performance is the best indicator for current performance success. Interview questions are centered around our values to include culture, hospitality, stewardship, partnership, quality, and then of course there's additional questions for the departments just to make sure that they can also do that clinical side or that dining side. Onboarding and orientation. HR conducts weekly general orientation to expedite hiring. So we've moved from every other week to weekly to get team members in the door quicker and to help the departments out. Departments also conduct orientation for new team members within the first 30 days. So they're training their new team members as soon as they get them on board to move them throughout the programs. Cedarfield is developing and implementing a training mentor program to assist new team members to ensure they feel welcomed and have the support they need. So this mentor training program, they'll go through a certain amount of training, and then they can always come to their trainer to see if there's additional training that they need, or their supervisor or HR to see if there's additional things that we can help them with. Training, we have Cedarfield University that we do training for current team members to remind them of policies and procedures and things that we need to work on. In addition to that, we are required by the Virginia Department of Health and Virginia Department of Social Services to complete annually at least 12 hours of in-services per month it could be from residents' rights to customer service to just many topics throughout. And then, of course, our new team members have requirements that they have to meet through general orientation to satisfy the Virginia Department of Health and Virginia Department of Social Services mandates. Anything I'm missing on training? Relias, we also have a Relias learning software that assigns training to team members on a monthly basis. I think I talked about that a minute ago. But they usually have 2 to 3 hours worth of in-services each month to make sure that they're compliant and that they understand what they need to do. CARF accreditation, I don't know if many of you probably already know that we're going through our CARF process now. CARF helps us put our best foot forward and helps us to ensure we're meeting the needs of our residents and the community, and of course helps us exceed those at times, so we're always looking to be better. Coaching, we educate team members on processes and procedures. Performance improvement plans they're designed to assist team members who may need additional guidance in their roles and responsibilities. It can also help us recognize those team members who are looking to grow throughout. And so we can put a performance plan improvement around them to help them grow possibly into another role that they might be interested in. Performance evaluations are conducted annually on all team members to assess their performance. Succession planning, our career path, allows team members to grow within their roles and allows them to set goals for future development. This allows Cedarfield to recognize and develop team members who are high performers with the department directors, so they'll work with their department directors on areas of interest that they might have. Scholarship program, this allows team members to apply for scholarships to assist with their growth and development at Cedarfield. We have a committee of residents that review the scholarship applications and award team members scholarships to help them pursue additional education or training that they might want or need. Compensation studies are evaluated on an annual basis to ensure we are competitive within the market. Benefits are reviewed annually by the Pinnacle Living Office to ensure rates or costs are effective for team members. And then we also have an annual open enrollment, which allows team members once a year to make any necessary changes that they might have other than outside a qualifying event. Wellness at work allows team members to participate in programs to assist with physical and emotional wellness. Work perks we offer at Cedarfield. We have an on-shift scheduling software which helps with team members picking up shifts. We have a health savings account that allows for Cedarfield to offer a low-cost medical insurance to team members. We offer free meals to team members on all shifts. Team members' break rooms are allowed for free coffee and tea throughout the day. We offer the team member Christmas luncheon, which is hosted by administration, team member birthday gifts, resident hosted Christmas party that many of you are already familiar with, Open door policy that all team members go to their department directors as needed. Peak program, how Cedarfield recognizes team members. Again, anyone can put in a nomination. It could be residents, family members, co-workers. Wellness at Work program, and team member recruitment bonus that we offer to team members when they refer a co-worker to work here. Pathways to wellness building, we have access to the use of the pool and the fitness room before work, after work, and during meal periods. We also offer ADP discounts through LifeMart. Team members can get discounts off of movie tickets, hotels, car rentals, just thousands of discounts are in that system that they can go in and take a look and if they're interested. We have offer an employee assistance program. This is a confidential service offered to team members and their families for any type of counseling, legal guidance. They can create wills. There's just many different avenues they can use this for. And then, Michael, is there anything else that you have? Okay.
All the staff have access to this LifeMart website. I'll just use an example from me. About 4 years ago, I needed 4 new tires on my car. I went into this website. Tires are pretty expensive, right? They're almost like $500 a tire. And through this website, I was able to get 50% off for all 4 tires. And so every team member has access to this LifeMart discount website. We were able to go to Busch Gardens for 75% off a ticket for an individual. So all the team members have a really special discount to access. One other thing I just wanted to highlight, talking about attracting great candidates, we actually have a full-time recruiter here. Her name is Madison, and she works with Stephanie in the HR department. And her role is just dedicated to recruitment. Right now, her focus is on CNAs and LPNs over in the licensed side of our business. And she, Stephanie alluded to this, she actually serves as an advocate too. So when that team member accepts our offer and starts working at Cedarfield, she follows that team member for the first 90 days of the team member's employment. And she's touching base with that team member every 2 weeks to make sure that the new team member has the training, has the resources, feels comfortable, is landing safely. And so Madison's doing a great job. The other thing I just wanted to point out with recruitment is we involve residents in recruitment at certain positions. And I know over on the health services side, Adrian and Tamika are going to be reaching out and asking residents if they want to be involved in recruiting on that side of the business. So if anyone has interest in wanting to be part of that plan, just you can see Stephanie and I afterwards. So that's a lot of information. We are right in the middle of 2 weeks away from the team members filling out the Richmond Times Dispatch survey. We have been a top workplaces designee for the last 5 years. This will be the 6th year that we're trying to attain that accreditation or award, not accreditation. And so the team members in January will be filling out that survey. And so that is a big help. A lot of times when folks are answering the ads and filling out the applications, one of the questions we ask them is, how did you find out about us, and what attracted you to us to begin with? And over 50% of the time they're commenting on the Richmond Times Dispatch Award that we have on our websites. We have it on our job postings. And so that award is it's special that we've been 5 years in that category, and we're attaining our 6th year hopefully here shortly. So I'll open, do we have questions? And yeah, absolutely.
How many vacancies do we have presently?
We have throughout the entire community, we have about 40.
So
full-time and part-time.
what is the problem with being able to fill those vacancies?
There's just not enough workers out there, honestly. A lot of people are leaving their professions. People are retiring. People are working, not wanting to work anymore. And then, of course, everybody's, especially in the nursing world, everybody is looking for the same people we're looking for, and there's just fewer and fewer of them. I know there's a shortage of nurses in the Richmond area, so all the other communities, as well as us, are struggling with filling those nursing positions. Anything else you want
Can I
to
add to
say?
that real quick?
Yes, is the pay competitive?
When you think about CNAs and nurses, in the Richmond market, there are 900 open positions for CNAs and nurses across the healthcare area, not just senior living. And so when we're trying to attract LPNs and CNAs to come to Cedarfield, that is our competition. There's 900 open positions. If you look on the social media platform, LinkedIn and Facebook, there are, and another prominent website called Indeed, there are 900 open positions in our area. And so that's our competition.
How do we compete as far as wages?
Wages, we're very competitive. It's a great question. Stephanie alluded to it in her presentation. We use a compensation consultant called Gallagher, and every year Gallagher helps us. They use 7 different national and regional databases to come up with their compensation study, and then they use those databases to look at all of our job categories and help us come up with a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum for every position. And then what Stephanie and I do every year, we complete an analysis with all the directors, and then we go down line by line with every team member to make sure that they're slotted within that mid, and max, so that we can assure ourselves that they are being paid competitively within the general market. I think it was almost 2 years, not 2 years, maybe last year we, in 21, we upgraded every team member to $15 an hour. That was a big initiative for us. We do this compensation study every February. In fact, Stephanie and I are meeting with David Taylor and James Green next week to do that line-by-line analysis of every team member to make sure that they are paid fairly and equitably within their job category.
We have a question here.
Yes, Ann Williams?
Do we have incentives that are offered that are competitive with hospitals and other doctors and so forth? Extra incentives besides just wages?
We do. We've done that in the past. Sometimes as soon as people get those, they leave. So we found those to not be very productive.
Yes. What about turnover in CNAs and nurses? I heard 6 nurses had left. And how do you look at that regularly?
So, I mean, we're always looking at that. When they leave, we try and reach out to them to ask them why they're leaving. I had actually one nurse specifically left. I reached out to her about a month later to see if she'd be interested in coming back, and she said, "Yep, I'm coming back. The grass isn't always greener on the other side," is what she told me. So, I've reached out to a couple of them that have left, and some I haven't gotten calls back. Others just aren't ready to make the move right now. They just have life events going on. So.
But what's the data on your turnover? Not just what you just said, but data. Do you keep data on?
We do.
I couldn't get a
I don't. She wants to know what the data is on our turnover. I don't have the number for you. I didn't look it up before I came.
Question?
What was the question, Mrs. Rose?
The data on turnover rate, and remember, Chris, the data on the turnover rate in the nursing CNAs. Remember, Chris said that the other clinical living
the data on the turnover rate, and how do you do that regularly, and what is it? And remember, Chris Henderson said when he was talking that the other Pinnacle Living facilities were fully staffed, and we were not.
Yeah, we look at that metric actually every week. Stephanie looks at the turnover rate every week and reports into the Pinnacle Living office. We think that one of the major reasons why Cedarfield compared to the other three communities is a little bit behind the other three communities had to do with wages. We just implemented within the nursing department a different wage scale that is extremely competitive with the market. And so Stephanie, this last pay period, worked with really every CNA that works here, and slotted them into this new compensation grid. And so, but we look at turnover every week, and as Stephanie was alluding to, we when a team member leaves us, there's an exit interview that's conducted through a third-party company called We Care Connect, and then that unbiased information comes to Stephanie and the executive director, and then we can filter through that. But those 6 nurses that just recently left, 2 of them have returned. One of them is thinking about it. I was just talking to one of them who did return 3 nights ago on the 3rd shift, and she had said, "Michael, the grass isn't greener." Just remember, if you are watching the news, there is this term called the Great Resignation. Have you all? Yes? Okay, everyone's head shaking. So this Great Resignation was happening in 2021, 22. If you talk to the human resources professionals now, there's a new term called the boomerang effect, where these people who resigned wanted to test the waters to see if the grass was greener, these folks are coming back around and asking for their job back. And so we're starting to see that now happening as evidence of these LPNs returning to health services. Mrs. Fine?
So we've talked so far about the shortages in our healthcare areas. What are the numbers in the other areas here? Where are the shortages? That's the first question. The second question is, you mentioned that you're starting a program in the healthcare services to enlist the help of residents when you're looking at hiring people. Is there a movement or an idea to do that as well in the independent living side of the company? Have you given any thought to that? I've always thought that the residents were your richest untapped resource around here. Just ask us.
You want to talk about the other side?
I lost the question.
I'll start with the first question. The first question is, what's the turnover rate within the other departments?
Yeah.
So right now, there's as of yesterday, you reported 34. We have 34 full-time, part-time openings at Cedarfield, and 22 of them are on health services, and so 12 are in the other departments. So maintenance is fully staffed right now. Housekeeping is looking for, I believe, 2 people. I don't have all these numbers memorized, but the rest of the departments are looking fairly well. Wellness and leisure is looking for a couple of drivers.
What about marketing?
Marketing, we're looking for a marketing director, 1 person. We think we've identified, we're now down to 2 people in that search. We think we've got really 2 solid candidates. Marketing, housekeeping, maintenance, wellness and leisure. Dining, we're looking for, who are we looking for?
We have 1 full-time position and then 2 part-time positions.
Yeah,
So looking really good in dining.
Pastoral services.
And then we have a chaplain.
And to your second point, that's a great suggestion, Mrs. Fine. We'll take that and run with that. That's look at ways that we can involve residents in the hiring process throughout the community, not just health services.
Would you tell us more about Relias training, what it is? Who takes it? And
Yeah,
when
sure.
Does it occur?
So Relias training, again, we have certain requirements required by the Department of Health every year to meet at least a minimum of 12 hours. So I assign team members a password and a code to go onto Relias whenever they can. If they're at work, they do it at work. If they can't do it at work and they have their supervisor's permission, they take it home and we'll pay them for that time that they do that. But they take courses. They can be anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour to an hour. We typically don't assign anyone any more than an hour and 15 minutes. We kind of try to keep it as short as we can. And then it's just on like residents' rights. It could be on HIPAA, infection control, bloodborne pathogens, customer service, fire safety, lockout, tagout. Anything else you can think of that I've missed?
The other thing we use Relias for, if there is a team member that we have identified as needs improvement in a certain topic, not only talking with them and coaching them up to get them to a performance standard that is acceptable, we also assign them Relias training, it's online training around certain topics. And our hope is that the team member utilizes the training and betters that skill on the job, given whatever topic that we assign to them.
Actually, two questions. Thank you. Does everyone know what behaviorally based interviewing means? And can you quickly explain what behaviorally based interviewing means to the group?
Yeah, so what we're typically asking them is how we'll ask a question of how they performed in their past work experiences. So that gives us an idea of how, if the question is specifically, how did a CNA interact with a resident, in a prior work experience, they'll kind of tell us what happened, and then that'll allow us to probe and ask additional questions. If we're curious about the topic or something didn't come out quite right, we'll just keep asking additional questions.
And the other question I have.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
And so behavioral-based interviewing, our goal is not to ask questions that lead us to a dead end, right? So do you want to work Monday through Friday? Yes. And then the conversation, you can't steer the conversation. So we ask all those yes, no questions on the front end of the application. So by the time the applicant gets here, we're asking them these behavioral-based questions so that we can not only understand what their pattern is of the past, but then if we have like 2 or 3 candidates for one position, we can actually trend the answers of 3 candidates with that question to see which of the candidates might have answered that question to our satisfaction. And then we score them, right? We want to go through the scoring process?
Yeah, so each section has a score that I believe it's like 1 to 4, and you score them in each section, and then you total it up, and the highest one that scored the highest, if there's 2 people, applying for a position and we're interested in 2 candidates, and we'll choose the one with the higher score.
And the other question I have is, how can we, as residents here, help with retention especially? Are there specific things that you see us being able to do that would help in the efforts to retain good employees?
I think the main thing that you all can help with, you just did last week. That party in here, that ripple effect, and not just this year, but of years past, those of you that have been here for a while, that party sends an enormous signal to the team members at Cedarfield. not just because of the money that was raised, and thank you very much for raising $250,000 this year. Each full-time team member, I don't know if you all know that each full-time team member received about $1,300 this year. I mean, that's a mortgage payment or a rent for maybe 2 months. So that's the biggest thing. Second thing that comes to my mind is what Stephanie referred to as the PEAK program. There are nomination forms scattered throughout the community, and if they're not, we can post them, where you can, when you receive exceptional service, if you write up a nomination form, that nomination goes right to Stephanie. And then Stephanie has what we call as a values committee, where all those nominations come in, and Stephanie and the team look at these nominations to see if that nomination is worthy of an award, linked back to those 6 values that I talked about at the beginning of the hour. And then we publicly present that team member, if they're awarded, with a certificate at an all-staff meeting on the following month. So those are 2 things that come to mind. And then Mrs. Fine's comment from earlier, another good way I think is to involve y'all in the hiring process in somehow. So we'll follow that one and come up with something here shortly.
While the party last week was a great idea and a wonderful thank you, just saying individually to team members as we go about our daily basis, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It goes a long way to helping and not being nasty to our team members.
That would help.
That would help a lot. Can I just touch on that a little bit? So, Cedarfield attracts a very accomplished resident. You all have accomplished great things in life, and you all have a very high standard. And sometimes the team members at Cedarfield don't hit that standard every day, right? I mean, we're all human beings, right? And when we don't hit that standard, I would just respectfully ask that if you want to talk about how, not to pick on the housekeeping department, but if the housekeeper didn't do the cleaning that week to your satisfaction, maybe instead of confronting the housekeeper, maybe talk to Sharon Brown about that a little bit, because sometimes the tendency is to come at the team member, and the energy that team member is confronted with just demoralizes them, quite frankly. They don't know how to handle that energy. And so if you have issues, and I'm not saying that we're perfect, because we're definitely not, but if you have issues with service, if maybe you can direct those to the right supervisor and manager and kind of work through problem solving in that way rather than trying to handle it with the energy right at that moment, I think that would help a long way. Thank you.
I would like to add something else. Positive, positive, positive. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 10 thank yous or 1 thank you is worth so much more than anything negative. Thank you every day. Be pleasant, smile. Wins you a lot of awards. Being nasty doesn't win you anything. And the employee doesn't respond. But being positive, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate what you've done. Means a whole lot more than 1 negative comment.
Amen.
And every single day, don't forget it. And that's how they'll enjoy being in Cedarfield and not try to find all these other new places that are opening up. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think my comment and question revolves around my feeling that there's a huge need for more resident participation.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I think my comment and question revolves around my feeling there's a huge need for increased resident participation, and I thought there was some resident participation in some positions. One position in particular was a high-level one that ended up not working out. I could have talked to this person for 5 minutes and known that it wasn't going to work out. Another one, you did have resident participation, and the residents, I understand, recommended you didn't promote this person. You did it anyway, it didn't work out. There are a couple of other positions that we know about, people that the residents loved, that we're not feeling, and we don't understand all the ins and outs, we're not feeling you worked hard enough to keep them. And so I wondered if you could elaborate on what resident participation there is now in high-level positions, and if you review, how you review times that these situations didn't work out.
So, obviously I can't share with you specifics or anything like that, but when somebody leaves, we have to keep it confidential. Sometimes it's of their free decision to leave, and then sometimes it's not. And those conversations, we can't go out and share with all of you our side of what's happened and what's going on. So we have to keep it confidential.
You want to repose the question?
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who were hired and then let go because they didn't work out. And I'm also asking, I thought there was a resident committee, or resident committees were formed and asked about candidates for high-level positions. And now you're saying you're gonna do that? I mean, do you do it or don't you do it?
We do it for, I know Florence does it for her positions. I think some people are involved in the chaplain interviews. I think there are some people who are involved with, Whitney's position. They were resident, transportation, yeah.
Creative arts.
Creative arts,
Creative
thank
arts
you.
people
I couldn't think of the position. Yeah, so there is some resident involvement, more so on this side of the building.
Is this an institutional thing, or do you just do it sometime and not others? It seems to me that there should be a resident group that can review or ask questions of a certain candidate, and that you all would listen to them.
Something we could look at, yeah.
But I understand it didn't happen. Anyway, that I guess you look at it and then you just don't take the resident's recommendation sometimes.
I think I know with there's one instance where we had a focus group of residents and team members to recruit this one position, and there were a couple of residents on that committee that didn't seem to think that the final candidate was the candidate that we should proceed with. Not every resident on that committee, and so we made that selection. It didn't work out. Sometimes in the recruitment world, it doesn't work out.
And you review how you could have made it work out.
Absolutely, yep. And I know what position you're referring to, and we're actively looking for that person now in that role, and we've learned lessons from that. I think in general, folks that we're trying to attract on the leadership team, we generally always really do involve residents in that director level, the executive director level. We involve residents in that search, but maybe there's an opportunity to go, one layer. In wellness and leisure, we've started that, and maybe there's another opportunity to go one layer higher in the management supervisor level to help.
Do we have at Cedarfield positions, job descriptions that are contracted out?
No.
Well, I know some of our yard work, our contract is contracted out, is it not?
We have contractor positions, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I thought you were asking a different question.
Maybe I didn't ask it right. Do we have any other, for instance, I thought our painters were contract people. I find out I'm wrong, that they work for Cedarfield. So are there any other categories that are contracted out?
Yeah, security is,
Security
therapy
is?
is. We have some in wellness and leisure, some contractors that work through them. What else am I missing?
Trash, recycling.
Recycling, yes.
Decorating.
Some maintenance, if we need additional maintenance assistance, we'll hire some contractors for maintenance. Renovations, yeah.
Hey, Dolly?
I want to go back to when you were talking about the wage differentiation, and is it not consistent throughout the Pinnacle communities? Because you said you had to re-examine the wages we were paying here at Cedarfield, and they didn't compare to the others.
That's correct. When we do compensation analysis, we don't have a compensation philosophy for every community, because Northern Virginia is more expensive to live, and so we do a study just for Northern Virginia. We do a compensation study just for the Roanoke area. We do a compensation for the Williamsburg market and then the Richmond market. And so when we look at those markets, they're depending upon the shift in the workforce within that market. We want to make sure that each of our communities are competitive within that market and using the right compensation scale in order to compete with the workforce in that market. And so what we did here is we looked at that most recent wage scale, and we noticed that we needed to do something within the CNAs and the LPNs. And so we're able to react like that because we have the most, to Mrs. Rose's point, we have the most accurate data in front of us to make those decisions.
Okay, thank you for that. And I have another, more or less, a comment. We're starting a new publication here at Cedarfield by the residents, for the residents, and we wanted to feature an article about one of the very talented people in the dining services. And this was brought up in a director's meeting, or the team leaders meetings, and the team leaders did not want us to point out one person or give any one person any particular attention. Well, our intention is every issue would talk about a team member, and it was our thought that this would boost morale in the team members, and we were shot down and said we couldn't do it.
I'm hearing this for the first time. Why don't we meet afterward or the next couple of days let's unpack that a little bit more to understand what we're after. But what you're saying to me just seems like common sense, that we want to do a spotlight on a team member and create some positive energy around the story of that team member in the publication.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a win-win to me, if that's all that it is.
Well, thank you for your support on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A question going back to resident participation. I've heard more than once that there were residents who were asked to participate, but the choices given were all the same. So in essence, there wasn't really a choice. And the carpets, of course, is the most recent one. So I would say that resident council, and you may not have seen it yet, Michael, I assume, well, Stephanie, you might not either, but the resident council passed a resolution with a suggested process for resident participation in decisions. And for instance, right now, the town center and what might be planned there is at least being discussed with some residents, but they don't really know, but they have concerns about what they think. And the other comment that I often hear is that the same people are often involved when it's a hiring of especially a higher level person. But I would hope that you would get a copy, if you haven't already seen, of the resident council resolution.
Yeah, Ann Williams and I were talking about it yesterday or the day before. I haven't seen the resolution, but Ann's going to get it to me.
Michael, following up on what Ms. Rose said, at what point would residents become involved in looking at the new executive director? What process would that take?
We are currently in the beginning phases of recruiting. We're about to hire under contract a recruiter, a national recruiter, and once that recruiter helps us narrow down to probably 2 or 3 candidates, then we would involve probably 3 or 4 residents in helping us. As we did with my search, I had 5 past resident advisory council presidents involved in the interview process. And then we involved a similar approach with Paul. And we'll continue our similar approach with the next executive director.
I have a question here.
Michael, you talked about staff shortages based on the authorized staffing levels. How frequently and how rigorously do you reassess the necessary staffing levels? Staff members that are overworked already, maybe we need to hire more in that department. How often is this reviewed?
So typically we look at staffing levels that are mandatory staffing levels, that you actually have to replace the person. If you don't replace the person, then quality goes down. And so particularly in health services, I find when we hear the term we're short-staffed, typically what that means is that we don't have the Cedarfield team member with us, but we have an agency person with us. I find typically that's what we mean when we say short-staffed. I can tell you I've been monitoring this over the last 6 weeks here at Cedarfield. When there's a CNA shift that is open or an LPN shift that is open, Adrian and Tamika have 2 or 3 agencies that they call to fill that shift. And our staffing levels are good, including the agency folks. And so when you hear, typically what I find, when team members say we're short-staffed, they're really referring to not the fact that they don't have another colleague in that neighborhood to help with care. They have another colleague, but it's an agency person. What they really want is another Cedarfield team member. And so they say they're short-staffed because that agency person, with all due respect to the agencies, they don't have the full investment and commitment. That's why they work in an agency. They like the flexibility and the variety to move around from community to community. And so over the last couple of weeks, I can tell you confidently that our staffing levels are fine. It's just that we have to fill the vacancies so that the Cedarfield team members are with in these neighborhoods, not the agency folks.
Is this on?
Yes, Marty.
So I have a couple of questions and a comment. Stephanie, I'd like to know what you do, how you vet people for criminals and for drugs. I think a lot of people here know I had a theft by a housekeeper of $30,000 who then vanished off the face of the earth. So I've always wondered what she went through to get the job. That's my first question. And my comment is, and I have mentioned this several times to Florence and to other people, is why don't we have a program? We have so many Hispanic housekeepers who have tons of friends who need jobs. Most of them are illegal. That's why they don't come here for a job. why don't we have a program to help them become legal? It's not that I'm in favor of illegal immigrants, I'm not. But they're here, why not help them become legal with a commitment to work for us for X amount of time as an exchange, and then they can start paying taxes, which would help everybody. So that's my question and my comment.
Repeat the first question. I lost you after the second question.
What do you do for vetting?
Oh yeah, so drug screenings and criminal background checks. We always do drug screenings and criminal background checks upon hire. So we're running drug screenings to make sure that they're not on any drugs. If they are, then they can't work here. We're running criminal background checks, and I can tell you that if somebody is a thief, we don't hire them. Now, if it's not on their criminal background check, that's not something I can control. So
Talk about the what the Department of Social Services, the list that we can't hire.
Oh yeah, so we have a barrier crimes list that the Department of Social Services and the Department of Health list, and we cannot, if somebody has a barrier crime, certain things on there like assault, a certain type of assault or things like that, we cannot hire. We have to follow those regulations. Yeah.
And what about my comment?
Your comment again, I'm sorry.
What I said is that we have a lot of Hispanic housekeepers here.
Oh, okay.
And housekeeping needs people. And I've spoken to a couple of them because they have friends that are all looking for jobs. And what I've deduced is that they're illegal. So my thought was, why not help them become legal with a promise that they work for us for X amount of time once they're legal. And it's not that I'm in favor of illegal immigration, I'm not, but they're here, they're not paying taxes. If we get them legal, they'll pay taxes and they'll help all of us in the country too.
So I'm assuming I would need to take that one to the Innsbruck office for approval.
Okay. I've mentioned it to Florence several times, and it's gone nowhere. I'm just wondering, it's a way to tap into people.
Yeah, I'm just required to follow regulations and laws, so.
Let me answer the question.
Yeah.
I think we're working on a program to help current employees become citizens.
Yeah, I think Allison is
Allison.
What's the question?
Well, it's not a question. I just wanted to mention that I know that Allison, and I believe working with maybe the scholarship committee, because I had a little bit of role in this, help employees with the cost of becoming a citizen. Do you not? You do have that.
I know Allison was working on that,
Yes.
and again, that needs to be brought up with the Innsbruck office.
A question that I've noticed, a problem that's debilitating and exhausting for some employees, especially the ones who are very talented, that when we have a vacancy in a job, like transportation or whatever, they get put over into those jobs. So we have multiple people here at Cedarfield who are not able to do the job for which they were hired. And so we suffer as a consequence, even though they are very competent people doing somebody else's job. But it's a policy that I'm unfamiliar with as being healthy.
We need to wrap this up. It's almost 10 o'clock. If you have any closing statements.
We'll be around. We'll be around.
I have one question.
Okay.
And that's why.
Wait up to the mic. Mike, can this senator ask her question first and I'll bring it back to you?
My question is any consideration given to the feelings of the residents with all this upheaval we've been having and upper being Paul leaving and something today in the transportation that we depend on so heavily? These are things that affect us directly. And I feel that we're being overlooked completely.
Did you get the question?
She just said that she was concerned that residents' opinions about people being dismissed are disregarded, and we don't feel good about this. And we have voiced our opinion, but it's like we are important enough to be considered. Is that a fair analysis of what you said? Ms. Rose.
Touch on privacy and confidentiality.
Yeah, so if somebody.
I was the last question I think they said they would take, and I'm sorry, but when you were talking about the executive director's search and resident input, I believe that if I heard it correctly, you're going to have the outside person, and the resident input would not get involved until you were down to 3 candidates. Why not have resident input on the criteria that this outside firm thinks would be good, and let residents have some input? There are a lot of people that have a lot of experience and such, and it seems to me that's a critical point. What are we looking for in this person?
Sounds good, Mrs. Rose. Take that under advisement.
Michael, just one thing, tack on to Barbara's comment. We are the end user. We're the user. And that's why we're the user. We're your customer. And that's why we need to maybe be heard. Barbara's idea is so excellent. We have no input into the criteria for our new director. Why not ask us, which is what I'm circling back to say again. Ask us. We are your customer.
Sounds great.
We have a question here.
Some 18 years ago, I was a volunteer here. I had a very ill husband, and my doctor suggested that perhaps I should leave him for a couple of hours and do something. And I came here, and it was very rewarding. I had a few people that I talked to. One was extremely quiet and depressed, and I can't go into the whole story, but I made one comment, and all of a sudden she jumped up and began talking, and so that was a good experience. And then I began to volunteer in the clinic, and I liked it equally as well. So I was saying that some of you might find that you may have a few hours that you could volunteer yourself. It's a good thing, and it'll be helpful, and I think it would be appreciated by all.
Thank you. Okay, we need to wrap up, unless you'd like to stay on.
We'll be here if anybody has any questions.
Okay. They will be here if you have additional questions, but because of the time limitation, we need to wrap it up and call it a day. And I want to thank all of you for coming and for participating and for asking wonderful questions. We're hoping that we have this kind of participation in the programs that we'll be planning for 2023. Thank you all. They're over here. Come and ask the question. Anybody need an application? I've got some.